persons having any business before this honourable court now draw nigh and give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Queen.
Admission of lawyers. Piyumali Jayathma Abhiganawadana.
May it please the court, I move that Pumali Jatma Abhigunawardana be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
The Pumali Martha Abhigunawardana be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Istiak Ahmed.
May it please the court, I move that Istiak Ahmed be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Istiak Ahmed be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Rebecca Bow-Gaspar.
May it please the court, I move that Rebecca Bow-Gaspar be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Rebecca Bow-Gaspar be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Sophie Bashara.
May it please the court, I move that Sophia Bashara be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Sophia Bashara be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Selena Bergschneider.
May it please the court, I move that Selena Berschneider be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Selena Berschneider be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
James William Dainton.
May it please the court, I move that James William Dainton be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That James William Dainton be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Kayvan Dorostka.
May it please the court, I move that Kayvan Dorostka be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Kayvan Dorostka be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Ravi Dutta.
May it please the court, I move that Ravi Dutta be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Ravi Dutta be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Ali Eldawich.
May it please the court, I move that Ali Eldawich be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Ellie Eldawich be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Claire Veronica Juni.
May it please the court, I move that my daughter, Claire Veronica Junee, be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Claire Veronica Junee be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Ray Quo.
May it please the court, I move that Ray Guo be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Ray Guo be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Estelle Lawrence Horrocks.
May it please the court, I move that Estelle Lawrence Horrocks be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Estelle Lawrence Horrocks be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Tony Nassim Issa.
May it please the court, I move that Tony Nassim Issa be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Tony Nassim Issa be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Rim Jazan.
May it please the court, I move that Rim Jazan be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Rim Jazan be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Matthew Lyle Keevers.
May it please the court, I move that my younger brother, Matthew Lyle Keevers, be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Matthew Lyle Keevers be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Lucy McAnagian.
May it please the court, I move that Lucy Makinadjian be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Lucy McAnagian be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Isabel Chloe Monia Gorton.
May it please the court, I move that Isabel Chloe Monia Gorton be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Isabel Chloe Monia Gorton be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Kayana Naritza Muradian.
May it please the court, I move that my sister, Kayane Muradian, be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Kayana Maratin be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Dukhui Johnny Nguyen.
May it please the court, I move that Dukhui Johnny Nguyen be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Dukhui Johnny Nguyen be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Jordan David O'Brien.
May it please the court, I move that Jordan David O'Brien be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Jordan David O'Brien be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Jazz Oswald.
May it please the court, I move that Jazz Oswald be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Jazz Oswald be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Ruby Astrid Pointer.
May it please the court, I move that Ruby Astrid Pointer be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Ruby Astrid Pointer be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
April Olivia Jane Reid.
May it please the court, I move that April Olivia Jane Reid be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That April Olivia Jane Reid be admitted as lawyer of this court.
Eleanor Procetta Remmer.
May it please the court, I move that Eleanor Procetta Remmer be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Eleanor Procetta Remmer be admitted as lawyer of this court.
Caleb James Secco.
May it please the court, I move that Caleb James Suku be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Caleb James Suku be admitted as lawyer of this court.
Lucy Ruth Southwick.
May it please the court, I move that my daughter Lucy Southwick be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Lucy Ruth Southwick be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Vidisha Asangani Thanapuli Arachiga Donna.
That Vidisha Asangani Thanapuli Archani Donna be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Shannon Belinda Tremaine.
May it please the court, I move that my daughter Shannon Belinda Tremaine be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Shannon Belinda Tremaine be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Stephen James Wallace.
That Stephen James Wallace be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Matthew Robin Wesley.
May it please the court, I move that Matthew Robin Wesley be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Matthew Robin Wesley be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Jacinta Catherine White.
May it please the court, I move that my daughter Jacinta Catherine White be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Jacinta Catherine White be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Katrina Ann Woodford.
May it please the court, I move that my daughter Katrina Ann Woodford be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Katrina Ann Woodford be admitted as a lawyer of this court. It will be necessary for the purpose of swearing an oath or making an affirmation that all those being admitted today please stand up but remain in your current places.
Piyamali Jayathma Abaganawadna. Istiak Ahmed. Rebecca Bo Gaspar. Sophie Bashara. Selena Berschneider. James William Dainton. Kayvan Dorostka. Ravi Dutta. Ali El Darwich. Claire Veronica Juni. Ray Quo. Estelle Lawrence Horrocks. Tony Nassim Izza. Rim Jazan. Matthew Lyle Keevers. Lucy McAnagian. Isabel Chloe Monia Gorton. Kayana Naritza Muradian. Dukhwai Johnny Nguyen. Jordan David O'Brien. Jazz Oswald. Ruby Astrid Pointer. April Olivia Jane Reid. Eleanor Procetta Remmer. Caleb James Suku. Lucy Ruth Southwick. Vidisha Asangani Thanapuli Arachiga Donna. Shannon Belinda Tremaine. Stephen James Wallace. Matthew Robin Wesley. Jacinta Catherine White. Katrina Ann Woodford. Do you severally swear or declare and affirm that you will truly and honestly conduct yourselves in the practice of a lawyer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and that you will faithfully serve as such in the administration of the laws and usages of this state according to the best of your knowledge, skill and ability? Would you please say, "So help me God," or "I do"? I do. Would you please be seated?
Now that the formal part of the proceedings has ended, I'd like to warmly welcome you to the Supreme Court of New South Wales. Present with me on the bench today is Justice Ward, Her Honour is the Chief Judge of the Equity Division, Justice Kuntz, who is a member of the Equity Division, and Justices Wilson and Kavanagh, who are members of the Common Law Division. Together we constitute the court that has, in exercise of its jurisdiction, admitted you to practice. As we gather here today, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. We recognise the long-standing and enduring customs and traditions of Australia's First Nations and acknowledge with deep regret the role our legal system has had in perpetrating many injustices against Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. To all the new lawyers here today, welcome to the legal profession. Today is a day for celebration. You've all worked extremely hard to get here, through caffeine-fuelled nights and obscure problem questions, reading countless wafer-thin pages of textbook and more cases than you can ever hope to remember. Rest assured, for those of you with a bibliophobia, that is fear of running out of reading material, that is something that never happens in the legal profession. You have entered the world of eggshell skulls, encountered the mysterious reasonable person, and have understood that the Constitution consists of so much more than just the vibe of the thing. In becoming a lawyer, you have today joined a centuries-old profession with ancient origins. The custom of advocates swearing an admissions oath dates back to the 12th century. This court first admitted lawyers to practice in 1824, and by 1830, the names of lawyers were entered onto rolls in this state. You have now become part of this tradition some 200 years later. Perhaps for some of you, or more likely for your family and friends, that's how long it feels that you've been studying. On that note, I'm also pleased to welcome those here with you today or watching on live stream. For many of you, the support of your family and friends has no doubt been invaluable. No doubt they have also often been on the receiving end of your finely polished skills of argument and persuasion. I do hope you take the time to thank them today. The oath or affirmation you have made today is a serious one and deserves solemn regard. Whether you work in private practice, at the bar, in a community legal centre, or an entirely different field, you should be known for your honesty, your integrity, and your commitment to justice. It is in acknowledgement of this weighty responsibility that we observe today's unique formalities, including the moving of lawyers, swearing of oaths, and even our somewhat unusual choice of fashion. On a lighter note, I recall some years ago, a young member of the audience asked if we were doing Santa photos after the ceremony. Regrettably, we were not. However, although we mark this occasion with formality and tradition, not everything in the legal profession remains unchanging. You'll be unsurprised to hear that over the past 2 years, we've had to adapt quite a bit. Indeed, this is the first admission ceremony we've had live for some 4 to 5 months. COVID-19 has meant a rapid shift to the increased use of virtual courtroom setups and technology to ensure access to justice continued in the midst of a pandemic. Things didn't always go smoothly, as those with me on the bench can undoubtedly attest to. There have been real difficulties to grapple with in terms of open justice, effective communication and fairness to participants. And occasionally a lawyer might even get stuck behind a Zoom kitten filter. But for all the challenge we faced, the impetus is greater than ever before for us to prioritise flexibility and accessibility. Better use of technology and increased working from home arrangements have profound implications for how our legal system interacts with many people, including those in rural or remote areas, those with a disability, medical conditions or carers' responsibilities. As the newest members of the profession, you are at the forefront of innovation in the law and have an opportunity to see through changes so that justice is done openly and equitably. There are, of course, other changes that deserve attention. When we think of the diversity of the legal profession, we encounter the duality that we have come very far and that much still needs to be done. Though women were originally not permitted to practice, since 2018, women have made up more than half of all solicitors with a practising certificate in New South Wales and currently make up 63% of solicitors under the age of 30. Women occupy many of the most senior positions in the law, including, of course, the Chief Justice of Australia. However, women continue to face challenges of representation, including amongst judges of this court and amongst barristers in speaking roles before the High Court. On the other hand, it is heartening to see that the local court of New South Wales has almost achieved gender parity amongst magistrates. But we must not be complacent about these issues. There are other noticeable diversity concerns that we must face head-on. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and people from diverse cultural backgrounds continue to be alarmingly underrepresented in the legal profession, and particularly within the judiciary and the ranks of senior counsel. We must also be alert to barriers to the profession from people from less privileged backgrounds. Law should not be a profession for the wealthy, and the idea that students may be dissuaded from studying law by the cost of a law degree, which this year has again increased, is disturbing. Not just this, but we will only achieve a truly diverse profession when barriers to advancement are broken down and people from different backgrounds are properly supported in a collegiate and inclusive environment free from harassment and discrimination. These issues are fundamental to a just and transparent legal system and to the legitimacy of the rule of law. We need diverse representation amongst advocates and judges so that all people who become involved in our justice system can be properly heard and fairly engaged with by a system reflective of our broader community. Despite these challenges, there is real scope for change. There is far greater diversity of background amongst junior lawyers than those who have been around for as long as me. And you only need to look around this courtroom and then at all the paintings on the wall to see that this is so. You are in a unique position as new lawyers who are entering the profession at a time when more than ever your words and actions are having an impact for good. You are being heard and taken seriously when you agitate to correct injustices, whether it be speaking out about unsustainable working cultures, sexual harassment or bullying within the profession, unfair laws or systemic failings affecting our society's most vulnerable. I urge you to continue to speak up for these things. They do matter. You are the future of the profession and will steer the direction it will take. As a lawyer, you will also need to make difficult ethical decisions at times. With regard to our personal characteristics, lawyers have been the butt of jokes for centuries. Some would say there are, of course, only a few lawyer jokes, the rest are true stories. But jokes aside, you must use the tools you have developed to think critically and not compromise on your fundamental duties to the court, the administration of justice, and other ethical duties you must uphold. Now that you're lawyers, you can get paid to argue instead of just arguing for free. Of course, there is a lot more to it than that. You are an advisor, a problem solver, a mediator, and an advocate for the marginalised. As you go about your day-to-day work, remember that you're not merely dealing with the law in a vacuum as a series of abstract concepts, but law as it applies to people's lives. For this reason, you must strive to deliver legal services competently and fearlessly with courtesy and integrity. Justice Gagler, before he was a High Court judge, once said, "You must be prepared to give the same answer to the same questions for the same reasons, no matter who asks the question or for what purpose or in what context the asking may occur." That is foundational to upholding the rule of law. For those of you who will practice law, the way you communicate information to others will have profound consequences for access to justice. For a non-lawyer, law is often incomprehensible. One of your roles as a lawyer will be to make law accessible to others, sometimes by deciphering legal complexities, other times by deciphering poor legal drafting, and sometimes both. One thing you will regrettably strike throughout your career is legislation which seems carefully crafted with the sole object of ensuring that no one can understand it. Your task is not just to understand it, but to explain it clearly to those whose rights and interests are affected by it. As lawyers, we must not keep the law locked up as something knowable only to us. A client reading your advice should be empowered to understand your meaning, not mystified and confused. So be clear and concise in your writing and your speaking. Plain English is powerful. Consider, do I really need to split that infinitive? Do I need to say aforementioned or herewith? Must I sprinkle in that Latin phrase? Should I really use double negatives, tautologies and wordy clauses that take up a whole page? The answer is obviously no. The best advocates make their points simply and succinctly. Now, I regret to say that even some of the most experienced lawyers and judges from time to time could use that reminder, but don't pick up their bad habits. I also want to speak about failure. I would not be surprised if there were quite a few overachievers and perfectionists in the room today. Even so, at various points of your career, you will make mistakes, some minor, some more serious. When you do make mistakes, your commitment to honesty, integrity and the administration of justice means that you must take responsibility, correct what you can and learn from those errors. You must fail at times in order to grow. What is important is that you try not to make the same mistake twice. Now, I've made many mistakes over the years, far too many for me to remember, although my colleagues are often anxious to remind me of them. But even as Chief Justice, my decisions have on occasions been successfully appealed to the High Court. When that happens, all that I can do is not learn from my errors, but just grit my teeth and remind myself that it's not a fiction, that the High Court's infallible. But in fact, at times, even dissenting High Court judges become the law. Finally, I want to emphasise that your mental health is extremely important. This may sound unexpected at this type of ceremony, but the law is not everything. There may be times when you feel overwhelmed, burnt out or distressed. If you do, you should not be afraid to seek professional help or to take a step back when you need to. Also remember that the law is a collegiate profession, and in times of difficulty, the support of your peers will prove invaluable. I found that out throughout my career. Although you might find it hard to believe, I was admitted quite a long time ago. I lost my first case, and I lost many more after that. But throughout my 35 years in practice, I could always count on the other barristers in my chambers to share my disappointment at the unfairness of the verdict, the sly tactics of opposing counsel, and most often, I regret to say, the obtuseness of the judge or judges before whom I was appearing. Now, I hasten to add I don't include any of my fellow judges on the bench in that comment. On behalf of all the judges of the Supreme Court, and particularly those sitting with me today, I once again congratulate you on your admission and welcome you to the legal profession. The Court will now adjourn.
Silence, all stand.